All right, it is time for the great debate. Tonight's topic, Elon Musk reinstates, yay, Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, her personal account on Twitter. Free speech matters, or assuring that Twitter is going to be left in tatters. We have two formidable formulators of argument taking each side of this debate. Democratic strategist Michael Starr Hopkins, Trump campaign advisor Jason Meister, also planning to join the 24 campaign for former President Trump. So, it's good to have you both. I start with you, Michael. Why is reinstating a bad idea?
There are consequences for reinstating people like Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Kanye West. Look, Donald Trump used his platform to incite a riot, to attempt to overthrow the government. Marjorie Taylor Greene used her platform to go after LGBTQ community members. Kanye West to go after Jewish Americans all over the country. I was in Colorado Springs this weekend to visit a friend. I had no idea when I got home on Sunday that I would receive a call saying that he was shot. Him being shot can be tied directly to the language that is used by people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, used by President Trump, used by Kanye West. There are consequences. So should Elon Musk allow these people on? He can do whatever he wants. It's a private country. It's a private company, rather. But there are moral consequences for this kind of actions.
Meister, are you worried about the moral consequences?
No, I'm not worried, and I disagree with a lot of what Michael just said, but what it distills down to is the fact that social media is essentially the modern public square, and the ability to and the power to censor social media is the power to shape ideas, and the power to remove dissidents or people you disagree with on social media is the power to silence their voices. That's why, in my opinion, it was never right to deplatform a man who got 75 million votes and was duly elected as the 45th president of the United States of America. I mean, at the end of the day, the concept of free speech in this country isn't to protect us against people we agree with. It's to protect us against the people that we disagree with. And I think the best answer to bad speech isn't less speech. I think it's more speech. And I think that's where I come out on this debate.
Decency concerns, Jason Meister. How do you balance? Where is the line?
Look, I actually disagree with how Elon Musk is going about this. I thought that vote poll that he put out on Twitter was actually wrong. Because at the end of the day, if more people voted to keep Donald Trump off of the platform, I would have disagreed with that position. I think free speech has to be applied across the board. I don't think Elon Musk or a committee that he surrounds himself with should be deciding who's radical on the left, who's radical on the right, who should have the ability to have a platform. There should be principles in place, and it should be across the board that freedom of speech is applied.
Now, Michael Starr Hopkins, the concern on your side is you pick winners and losers. And it's the ideas that the left doesn't like that find their way canceled, as we call it today. And is that about free speech or just the free speech that you like?
First of all, let's be very clear. The First Amendment does not apply to Twitter. It is a private company. But even if he did, the First Amendment has limitations. You can't walk into a movie theater and scream fire. There are barriers in place. And the same should be true with Twitter. When you give someone a platform to not only preach hate, but preach violence. People died on January 6th. People are dying because of the things that people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are saying publicly. That's a problem. It may not be something that Mr. Meister is concerned with, but when I get calls from my friend saying that he's shot 7 times, that's what I'm concerned with. And there's consequences. And when there's consequences, you have to do something about it. So this idea that there's just complete free speech, it's ludicrous. And it's not really what Republicans believe in, because they talk about limiting speech all the time. They went after tech companies for years, and now all of a sudden it's free speech, free speech. Well, where's that free speech for those drag people who were trying to just live their truth? Where was their free speech?
So one more question for you, Michael, and then I'll bounce it over to Jason. I understand your point. Let's put the debate on pause for 1 second. How is your friend?
He's stable. He's alive, thank God.
All right.
He has been through just a traumatic experience that I would wish on no one.
Absolutely, and that matters more than everything we're talking about here, frankly. Thank God he's all right. Hey, thank you for watching. please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.